Hello and welcome to the History of Star Wars. Today's episode, C-3PO. Small disclaimer right up front, I'm skipping the Clone Wars cartoon because that would make this episode probably an hour, maybe two, I don't know. We're gonna stick to mainly the movies. And here we go. In an early incarnation, C-3PO served as a protocol droid to the chief negotiator for the Manacron system. Additionally, he later claimed that his first job was programming binary load lifters, which he said was very similar to moisture evaporators in most respects. At some point, however, C-3PO fell into disrepair, and his vital components ended up in a junk pile on Tatooine. Anakin Skywalker, a slave boy from Tatooine City of Mos Espa, collected scrap parts and started rebuilding C-3PO so the droid would help his mother. Although protocol droids were normally designed for light duty in luxurious environments, Skywalker especially modified C-3PO so that he could withstand Tatooine sand and heat. C-3PO served Anakin and his mother by performing household chores. During this time, C-3PO's wiring was left exposed, since Skywalker was unable to outfit him with an outer covering. Following the Trade Federation's invasion of the mid-rim planet of Naboo, C-3PO's life entered a new chapter when his owner Anakin met several off-worlders at the shop of his owner, the junk dealer Watto, and then invited them to seek shelter in his home during a sandstorm. The Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn, the Queen of Naboo Padme Amidala, the Gungan Jar Jar Binks, and the astromech droid R2-D2 were brought to the slave quarters that Anakin shared with his mother. As a result of this invitation, Amidala and R2 were introduced to C-3PO. Upon meeting R2-D2, C-3PO was shocked when the candid astromech commented that he was naked. Despite the exchange, the two droids fast developed a friendship of sorts, working together to help Skywalker make final adjustments to his pod racer in time for the race. While working on the pod racer, the two droids discussed space travel and noted the clumsy actions of Binks. On the day of the race, C-3PO represented his owner in the opening flag parade, carrying Skywalker's flag onto the course prior to the start of the race. He then stood on the sidelines with R2-D2 and two of Skywalker's playmates, who cheered their friend on. Skywalker won the race thanks to a deal that Jinn had struck with Watto, earned the boy his freedom from slavery, and secured Jinn the hyperdrive generator he needed to leave the planet. As Skywalker prepared to depart Tatooine, he said his goodbyes to C-3PO, apologizing for not having completed the droid's construction, and expressing his wishes that his mother wouldn't sell him. Later, Skywalker's mother was sold to the moisture farmer Clegg Lars, who freed and married her. Skywalker's mother brought C-3PO along with her, and the protocol droid found himself in the service of the Lars family, who owned a moisture farm in the Judland Wastes. C-3PO's new owner covered him in tarnished gray plating to shield him from Tatooine's sandy environment. 10 years after parting with Anakin Skywalker, Skywalker's mother was kidnapped by a group of Tusken Raiders, fearsome nomads native to Tatooine's desert wastes. Sensing his mother's pain and anguish through the Force, Anakin returned with his secret lover and childhood friend Padme Amidala to find his mother. Skywalker advanced his Jedi training as a Padawan under the tutelage of Obi-Wan Kenobi, while Amidala had become a senator in the Galactic Senate. When Skywalker and Amidala visited the Lars moisture farm, they found C-3PO working on a moisture vaporizer. He didn't initially recognize Skywalker until he later finished his name for introducing himself. Greeting his maker, C-3PO discovered that Skywalker had come in search of his mother and had brought the two guests into the homestead's courtyard, where they were met by Clegg Lars, as well as his son Owen Lars, and his girlfriend Beru. Learning of his mother's perils, Skywalker took Owen's speeder bike to find her, and soon returned with her corpse, having recovered it from the Tusken village. C-3PO was present when he arrived, and later attended a funeral for Skywalker's mother on the farm's property. When R2-D2, who had been waiting on board Amidala's nearby yacht, interrupted the funeral with an urgent message for the Padawan, C-3PO translated the astromech's binary beeps and whistles. After receiving the holocom message, Skywalker and Amidala departed Tatooine for Geonosis to rescue Skywalker's Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. Thus, C-3PO would become both a witness and participant in the subsequent Battle of Geonosis, the first spark of the Clone Wars, a conflict that would change the course of galactic history. After landing on Geonosis, C-3PO reluctantly followed R2-D2, Skywalker, and Amidala into the Geonosis droid factory. After being trapped in the factory's conveyor belt system, C-3PO's head was separated from his body and grafted into the chassis of a B-1 battle droid. Meanwhile, a B-1 battle droid head was inserted into C-3PO's body. During the ensuing battle, of both C-3PO's bodies were knocked out during the fighting. Fortunately for him, he was promptly reattached to his rightful body by R2-D2. Following the events on Geonosis, C-3PO and R2-D2 attended Skywalker and Amidala's wedding in Naboo's Lake County. Following the Battle of Coruscant, C-3PO joined the Jedi Master Mace Windu and the Galactic Senate's Loyalty Committee in greeting R2-D2 and his Jedi companions, Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, following their successful mission to rescue Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, who had been kidnapped by the Separatist General Grievous. C-3PO would continue serving Senator Amidala during the last days of the Galactic Republic and the Jedi Purge, which ushered in the Galactic Empire. He also accompanied his master to Mustafar and piloted the skiff, allowing some reprieve for Amidala, who was distraught at her husband's turn to the dark side and his role in the murder of the Jedi younglings at the Jedi Temple in Coruscant. Unknown to him and Amidala, Skywalker's former master, Obi-Wan Kenobi, had stowed aboard the skiff. On Mustafar, Kenobi's presence enraged Skywalker, who force-choked his wife. While Kenobi dueled his former Padawan, C-3PO and R2-D2 attended to the ailing senator and brought her back to the skiff. After defeating Skywalker, C-3PO and Kenobi piloted the skiff to Paulus Masura, a remote Outer Rim world where she gave birth to twins, a boy named Luke Skywalker and a daughter named Leia Organa, before passing away. While Skywalker's twins were spirited away to various locations to hide them from the Empire, C-3PO and R2-D2 passed into the ownership of Padme's friend, Bail Organa, the senator from Alderaan. Due to C-3PO's talkative nature, Senator Organa made arrangements for the protocol droid to receive a memory wipe in order to keep Leia's true patronage a secret. The Galactic Civil War. During the Galactic Civil War, C-3PO was with R2-D2 in the Rebel Alliance's secret base on Yavin 4. At the time, the Alliance fleet prepared to leave for the Battle of Sharf to help reinforce Rogue One, who traveled to Sharf to retrieve plans for the Galactic Empire's Death Star, a new superweapon capable of destroying entire worlds. The Alliance succeeded in stealing plans for the superweapon. C-3PO and R2-D2 were later aboard Senator Leia Organa's blockade runner, the Tanative 4, which was being pursued by Darth Vader's Imperial-class Star Destroyer, Devastator. Then unknown to C-3PO, Darth Vader was actually his former master, Anakin Skywalker. The Tanative 4 was crippled by laser blasts from Vader's ship, and Imperial stormtroopers boarded the vessel. After Princess Leia managed to insert these secret plans and a holographic message for Master Kenobi into R2-D2, the two droids fled in an escape pod to the desert planet of Tatooine. After quarreling in the Judland Wastes, the two droids separated and were captured by Jawas, who sold them to a family of moisture farmers. C-3PO is chosen as a moisture evaporator programmer, and having Bonsi among his languages, and recommending buying R2-D2 after the first chosen R5-D4 had a motivator malfunction, the family turned out to be Owen Lars, his wife Beru, and their later adopted nephew Luke Skywalker, the son of Anakin Skywalker. While C-3PO settled down in his new home, R2-D2 wanted to continue his mission and find Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. Unable to resolve their differences, R2-D2 escaped into the Judland Wastes. Skywalker followed him in a land speeder piloted by C-3PO and caught up with R2-D2. However, they were ambushed by a gang of Tusken Raiders who damaged one of C-3PO's arms. C-3PO and his companions were then later rescued by Master Kenobi, who brought them into his dwelling. Kenobi revealed Skywalker's heritage and passed him his father's lightsaber, telling the boy that Anakin had been murdered by another apprentice named Darth Vader. After seeing Anakin's lightsaber, C-3PO's protocol programming required him to request a shutdown to protect his ex-owner's secrets. After discovering Princess Leia's message in R2-D2's compartments, Kenobi attempted to persuade Luke to accompany him to Alderaan, Princess Leia's homeworld. Skywalker was initially reluctant until he discovered that Imperial stormtroopers had murdered his relatives and razed their moisture farm. Later, C-3PO and his companions traveled to the spaceport of Mos Eisley with the intention of finding passage to Alderaan. Upon arriving in the settlement, they were stopped by a stormtrooper patrol. However, Kenobi used a Jedi mind trick to convince the stormtroopers to give them free passage through the town. C-3PO and R2-D2 were not allowed to enter the cantina due to a rule banning droids, while Kenobi and Skywalker negotiated with the smuggler Han Solo and his Wookiee co-pilot Chewbacca. C-3PO and R2-D2 wandered the streets of Mos Eisley and narrowly evaded a stormtrooper patrol. Later, C-3PO and R2-D2 boarded Han Solo's ship, the Millennium Falcon, and flew it into hyperspace. Upon exiting hyperspace in the Alderaan system, C-3PO and his companion discovered that the Empire's Death Star had already destroyed the planet. The Millennium Falcon was then trapped in the tractor beam of the Death Star. Hiding under the freighter cargo's components, they managed to ambush an Imperial scanning team and 2 stormtroopers. The rebels then seized control of an Imperial control room. While C-3PO and R2-D2 stayed behind to watch the Falcon, the other rebels split into 2 groups. Disguised as stormtroopers, Skywalker and Solo, along with their Wookiee prisoner, Chewbacca, went to detention block AA-23 to free Princess Leia. Meanwhile, Master Kenobi went to disable the tractor beam projector. Master Kenobi was able to shut down the tractor beam projector, but was cornered by his former apprentice Darth Vader on his way back. While Kenobi gave his life, C-3PO and the other rebels took the opportunity to flee from the Death Star on the Millennium Falcon. After dispatching several pursuing TIE fighters, C-3PO and his companions escaped to the jungle moon of Yavin 4, where the rebels maintained a base. Using Death Star plans stored in R2-D2 systems, the rebels discovered that the massive superweapon contained a weak point, an unprotected shaft. While Skywalker, R2-D2, and a rebel strike force assailed the station, C-3PO remained with Princess Leia at the Rebel Command Center on Yavin 4. Following the destruction of the Death Star, C-3PO was present at the Victory Parade, where Skywalker, Solo, and 2 other Rebel pilots were awarded for their courageous actions. Sometime later, C-3PO and his Rebel companions ended up on the icy planet of Hoth, where the Rebel Alliance maintained a secret base. When Skywalker did not return from patrol, C-3PO and R2-D2 were deeply worried about the safety of their master. Han Solo then departed on a Tauntaun to rescue Skywalker, who had been attacked by a Wampa. When R2-D2 calculated that Skywalker had a very poor chance of survival in the frozen wilderness, C-3PO tried to cheer up the others by assuring them that R2-D2 has been known to make mistakes from time to time. The following day, Skywalker and Solo were rescued by a rebel patrol of snowspeeders. While Skywalker recovered in the base hospital, C-3PO visited his master to wish him well. After Solo and Chewbacca encountered an Imperial probe droid, the Rebel Alliance ordered a mass evacuation of their Hoth base, while the Rebels' ion cannon and ground forces held back the advancing Imperial fleet of ground troops. Rebel transports began fleeing the Imperial blockade into hyperspace. Following the Battle of Hoth, C-3PO, along with Han, Leia, and Chewbacca, fled on board the Millennium Falcon. Unable to enter hyperspace, the Falcon's crew fled into the Hoth asteroid belt to lose their Imperial pursuers. After escaping the Imperial fleet, the Millennium Falcon fled to Cloud City, an orbital city in the gas giant of Bespin. Cloud City was run by an old friend of Han Solo called Lando Calrissian, a former gambler and businessman. Upon landing, C-3PO attempted to greet Calrissian, but was rudely brushed aside. While exploring Cloud City, he heard the familiar beeps of an R2 unit, only to stumble across several Imperial stormtroopers who promptly disabled him with the stun blaster. The Imperials then gave C-3PO's body parts to several garbage disposal workers who attempted to dismantle him. However, Chewbacca arrived in the nick of time and rescued the protocol droid from being disintegrated. Shortly after, C-3PO's rebel companions were betrayed by Calrissian, who handed them over to Darth Vader and the bounty hunter Boba Fett. While in prison, Chewbacca was able to repair C-3PO's head, torso, and arms. Before he could reattach the protocol droid's legs, the rebels were summoned by Vader to a carbon freezing chamber. There, Darth Vader intended to test Cloud City's carbon freezing technology on Han Solo as part of his plot to lure Skywalker to Bespin. Despite initial fears that the process would kill Han, C-3PO was mollified when he learned that Solo was merely hibernating. Vader then ordered C-3PO and the remaining rebels to be taken to his flagship. the Superstar Destroyer Executor. However, Lando reneged on his deal with the Empire and freed C-3PO and his companions. Reuniting with R2-D2, C-3PO and his rebel companions fled Cloud City on board the Millennium Falcon, but not before warning the city's inhabitants that the Empire was occupying their city. On the way out, the rebels also rescued Luke Skywalker, who had lost his hand during a duel with Darth Vader. R2-D2 continued repairing C-3PO on board the Falcon, but had to stop to fix the hyperdrive. After fixing the hyperdrive, the rebels were able to escape into space and link up with the rebel fleet. Following their escape, C-3PO along with R2-D2 and Princess Leia visited Skywalker in the medical bay. They watched out of a window as Lando Calrissian and Chewbacca departed on the Falcon to rescue Solo from the bounty hunter Boba Fett. Much later, Skywalker visited Jabba's palace and demanded that he freed Han and his companions. Jabba refused and had Skywalker thrown down into his Rancor pit. However, Skywalker killed the Rancor, prompting an enraged Jabba to order that Skywalker, Solo, and Chewie be fed to the Sarlacc that inhabited the great pit of Carkoon in the Dune Sea. Before Skywalker could be thrown to the beast, R2-D2 managed to pass his lightsaber to him. Following a struggle, the rebels managed to kill Jabba and most of his entourage. During the fighting, C-3PO was attacked by Jabba's pet, who damaged one of his eye lenses. R2-D2 rescued him, and then he and R2-D2 then dived into the Dune Sea. They were later retrieved by the rebel companions, who fled the scene on the stolen desert skiff. C-3PO, along with his companions R2-D2, Han Solo, Princess Leia, Luke Skywalker, and Chewbacca, took part in the rebel mission to infiltrate Endor. Using a stolen Imperial shuttle, the rebels managed to land on Endor. They soon encountered several Imperial scout troops, and Princess Leia was separated from the group during the struggle. C-3PO accompanied Han, Skywalker, and Chewbacca as they searched through the forest for Leia. However, they stumbled into a trap laid by Ewoks, a species of sentient, furry bipeds native to Endor. The Ewoks had already befriended Leia and welcomed her as a guest. Believing that 3PO was a god, the Ewoks attempted to sacrifice Solo, Skywalker, Chewbacca, and R2-D2. When C-3PO failed to dissuade the Ewoks, Skywalker used the Force to cause C-3PO's throne to levitate. Fearing that they had angered their god, the Ewoks promptly released their prisoners. Later that night, C-3PO convinced the Ewoks to fight on the side of the rebels against the Imperial presence on Endor. The following day, C-3PO and R2-D2 took part in the rebel assault on the Death Star's shield generator. However, the rebel force was quickly captured by the Imperial garrison. C-3PO and R2-D2 managed to evade capture. Under orders from R2-D2, C-3PO exposed his position to the Imperials. Shortly later, the Ewoks attacked the Imperial forces, massed outside the shield generator. However, the Imperials managed to seal off the shield generator and launch a devastating counterattack with AT-ST walkers. Meanwhile, in space, the rebel fleet was trapped between the second Death Star and the Imperial fleet. During the fighting, C-3PO and R2-D2 made their way to the shield generator's blast doors, where Han and Leia were attempting to breach it. R2-D2 attempted to access the power socket but was blasted by enemy fire, causing him to short-circuit. C-3PO, Han, and Leia were then cornered by stormtroopers, but Leia managed to shoot them. Meanwhile, Chewbacca and two Ewok warriors managed to turn the tides of the battle by hijacking an AT-ST walker and using it to destroy the others. Using the hijacked AT-ST, the rebels tricked the remaining Imperial troops into opening the shield generator. After storming the bunker, the rebels planted explosives which destroyed the energy field protecting the Death Star. This enabled the rebels to destroy the second Death Star along with Emperor Palpatine, Darth Vader, and several Imperial ships. Following the Battle of Endor, C-3PO took part in the victory celebrations at the Bright Tree Village. And we're going to cut it off there. If there's enough interest in a History of C-3PO Part 2, we will continue starting with the New Republic. Thank you for watching the History of Star Wars. Special thanks to Wikipedia for all information you heard today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you can. If you have, thank you. And have a nice day. Bye-bye.